All right. Welcome to another episode of At Wit's End. I'm Ken. On the other side is Carson. Hey, the studio audience is stepping up. Listen to that.
The studio's grown.
Yeah, here at the At Wit's End studio. It is almost midday on the west coast of California. Well, west coast of the United States, California. Carson is 6,000 miles away. 9-hour difference in the beautiful Upper Austria city of Linz. And before we get into our before we get into the main subject, because I don't think any Americans are really aware of it, big storm, interesting weather in Austria. I mean, let me say this: it is a beautiful day in California. Nice. It's still kind of the end of summer, so it's still warm, but there's a nice fall breeze. The leaves are starting to fall. But interesting in Austria, what's going on?
Yeah, we've skipped. We went straight from summer to winter because it is a big rainstorm, and in the Alps, a big snowstorm. Talking
the ski resorts have snow. I mean, they have snow all year, but really a lot.
Yeah, a lot of snow being dumped and a lot of rain. A lot of areas on flood watch. And the most kind of shocking thing, and I didn't know this until not too long ago, but they actually have shut down all the trains between Salzburg and Vienna, which is a major route.
Why between? Because you already come through the Alps.
Will be the Donau.
So the train from Linz to Vienna shut down too, I would think, because that goes along the Donau.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's the same route between Salzburg and Vienna.
Gotcha.
It crosses through Linz. So it's like the major west to east route, and it's all shut down.
So I mean, that's comparable to the interstates in the United States being shut down. I mean, because that's a major mode of transportation.
But even the freeway, the A1, is also shut down.
Yeah. Just had a little glitch there in technology, but I think we're good.
You're all good. But the A1 is also shut down, so even driving there, is not going to work. So
today
people are quite stuck.
It's Sunday, which is a day when most of the shops are closed anyway, but it's really a day to be shut in Vienna and Austria in general.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw some light videos come out of Vienna and some of the canals and streams that run through the city are the highest people have ever seen them. So it's quite kind of crazy. I know one light runs right on the U4 underground, and the psychosing, man, that the subway tunnel looks like it's about to flood because. You can see the subway tunnel is dry, but then you look right over and there's just a rushing water right next to it.
So do you think, the Donau, the level's risen? So a town like Wales might be in trouble?
Like Linz, they probably have the flood walls up. Yeah, it rises up pretty significantly.
Wow.
I mean, it's sometimes in the past, there have been storms where it's gotten into the city, but there's parts of Linz that will kind of flood, the banks will get high.
Good thing the opera on the water was not this weekend.
Yeah, they got really nice weather for that. But this weekend it's been kind of crazy. I saw some TikTok videos from Americans in Croatia, and the streets of Dubrovnik were just covered literally in a foot of water. Yeah, they're just walking around, and you walk around in shorts and a t-shirt because if you wear pants, it's worthless. Don't have shoes on.
So the storm is pretty much covering all of Central Europe and into Eastern Europe.
Yeah. So it's weird. It's kind of a weird storm. It's coming down from Poland and Czech Republic and going south. It's not crossing over Germany. It's going Eastern Germany is also getting hit by
it's coming straight down.
And it's going down to to Croatia, Italy, and Slovenia, and the Adriatic. So it's kind of a weird storm, but it's moving that way, hitting the Alps pretty heavy.
It is weird because I would think most storms come up from the south. With the moisture, picking up moisture.
I've seen storms come from England. I've seen storms come from the Adriatic. Um, it's weird because it's like you don't see a storm come from like southern France because I think the Alps kind of wall it off.
Yeah.
And will prevent that. But if it goes like north, the Alps, and drops down, or if it comes from the north, or if it comes from like the Adriatic and the Baltics, or the Balkans, then it one of the bees, the Balkans, then it'll come. But yeah, I mean the Baltics is correct too. That's not
Yeah.
wrong.
Well,
Coming
well,
down from
good.
the
Hopefully,
Baltics.
get all that bad weather out before we make the trip over in a few weeks.
Yeah,
But
needs
with
to
that,
end.
we're kind of doing a follow up episode, part two of our London experience, and this one's more specific in the culture of cigars in London.
Yeah, it's kind of a topic. I'm not sure how much we've mentioned it, but um, you and I are both cigar enjoyers. Definitely enjoy a nice smoke, and the culture around cigars too. It's an important part of it, and it's not a it's a rather niche community. I think
Yeah, but it
it's kind
is.
of
It's
tied
hard
off,
to
but
describe. I think it was bigger. I mean, the push to ban smoking everywhere has put a damper on a lot of things, and that's globally. But the one, it's kind of like I consider watches artwork. I consider cigars a communal thing, uh, a relaxation tool. Opens up conversations, and I think one of the things that you enjoy doing and I enjoy doing is visiting cigar bars in various parts of globally, quite frankly, and because you meet interesting people. Um, and your mother enjoys a cigar with us, which is unusual. She likes to tell people that, but
yeah,
we've met people that have never had a cigar before that just came in to try. To immigrants, veterans, wealthy, middle class. I mean, it is a communal thing. It's kind of like you know the peace pipe or the hookah pipe, or it
yeah.
enhances discussions and information, gets people to talk.
It's Yeah, it's definitely I think I've talked about this before, but it is the idyllic third place to me
Yeah.
because a cigar is not a fast thing. You
Well,
have
you need to
to
probably. I know we've
if you don't
mentioned
enjoy
before.
it, you need time to enjoy a cigar.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It takes you off the phone. It gets you down.
yeah,
It's like a meal. The difference between a sit down meal and a fast food meal.
yeah,
Sit down, you're
and
going to
that's very
enjoy and
much like a
digest.
cigarette versus a cigar.
Well, yeah. When Carson says third place, that's the concept of everybody needs a third place. You have your work, you have your home, and then you need a third place to just kind of hang and
Yeah,
digest the
meet up,
world, I guess.
talk, yeah, and just chat with the world, see the world, and relax in somewhere outside of those
And
two spots. So
that third place does not include online social media. It's
it,
person to person. So
yeah, it's a
with
social hub.
that,
So yeah, we'll dive into and transitioning to London, right? So London um is one of the hubs of cigar lounges in the world, in my opinion. They have some of the most famous ones in the world, and one of the oldest cigar cultures in the world too. And so it you know for me and you, it's there's and my mom is something to do, part of the travels we wanted to do. And um
uh,
why go ahead.
end of a long touristy day, it's always a good thing to have a cigar. After a nice, elegant meal or even a quick meal, it's kind of nice to have a cigar. So,
Yeah, and people may like wonder kind of why London is a cigar city. It's I don't want to say it's rather unique, but like the history of it's rather interesting, and that's what makes it such a hub for cigars. So cigars started like much of British culture with the vast reaches of the British Empire. When they
colonialism.
yeah, when they go to war in the on the seas, go to war in Spain, Portugal, and the Caribbean. Um, the sailors would bring back cigars and bring it back to London and to their homes in England. And when this started, early 1800s is when cigars started to be brought back. Oh, it was more for aristocrats in the very high end society. And as time moved on into like the Victorian era, late 1800s, early 1900s, it really started to get ingrained into just normal Londoners' culture. Cigar smoking kind of moved its way down the social pyramid, and really started to become just a commonplace thing to do. And you would do it over the newspaper, over talking the day's events, over just hanging out socially. And that's when some of the shops we'll talk about later even started. Probably the most famous one, James J. Fox, was founded in 1881, and is still around today. So, it shows you how far back cigar culture, goes into. And as the Victorian era ended and mid 1900s kind of come about, cigars started to die a little bit, and you know exactly why. We were talking about this, that cigarettes became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And cigarettes kind of took their place because cigars take a long time to smoke, and so people, had things to do, places to be, and so cigarettes kind of took their spot as a quicker way to have a smoke, have a quick break, and then get back into whatever they were doing.
A nicotine push.
Yeah, and then nicotine, fuels the addiction, obviously. But out of this mid 1900s area, probably came the most famous cigar smoker in the world. It definitely England's, to this day, and that's Winston Churchill. Very famous for his cigars. Always had one in his mouth. He famously purchased and stored cigars at James J. Fox, like I just mentioned, and we'll kind of get into when we talk about our visit there, some of the cool things there of him. But when you go to like any of the cigar lounges, they usually have a picture of Churchill hanging on the wall, and there's a number of them that are named after Churchill as well. So highly influential figure in cigar culture in London, and just very big on his personality. I think that everyone knows him for cigars.
Well, he's one guy that can actually say change the world in world history. So I think that adds to the lore of Mr. Churchill.
And he changed cigar history so much so that they have a cigar size named after him. So you can go out and buy not only like a Churchill named cigar, but the size of a cigar is called a Churchill. It's actually quite large cigar, but you can go buy a Churchill size cigar, and that is because that's what Churchill used to smoke. He used to prefer. So, with that, so that's a little bit of cigar history, and cigars are maintaining into this modern age. I think
it is surprising that cigars are still the push to kind of ban smoking all around, well, except for pot, to kind of get rid of things has put I won't say a damper, but there's also that pushback is that, no, you can't take it. I think my first cigar that I ever had, it was in Virginia, which happens to be tobacco country in the United States. Let's face it, the South grew tobacco, phenomenal tobacco, and the golf culture. If you played golf in Virginia, you always stopped by and got a cigar on the way to the course. And it was in South Richmond, and I can't remember the name of the place, but it was like a shack, and they had tobacco leaves hanging from the ceiling, and the guy rolled the cigars right there for you. And then we went and played a course out in the Midlothian. So it's part of I guess a ritual is what it would come down to.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know that, but funny enough, my first cigar was in Virginia as well.
Let's face it, that's the smoking capital of the United States as far as production.
I've talked about it a little bit, but I went to Virginia Tech, so it's kind of obvious. But my first cigar came from a shop on North Main Street, right across from the entrance to Virginia Tech. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it It's called Blacksburg Pipe and Tobacco. Just a
Well,
little shop.
if you ever go to Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, I mean, and you Shockoe Bottom, the tobacco district, the old warehouses, and that's where Marlboro cigarettes are made. And I remember touring that plant. Just what an industrial plant that is, beautiful.
Yeah,
Never seen anything cleaner and more efficient.
Yeah, it's well, I don't want to get into cigarettes because I hate cigarettes, but interesting. I've always found this interesting. Lucky Strike cigarettes are massive in Europe, but you can't buy them in the U.S. Like, just the brand doesn't exist.
Well, the last time I toured the plant in Richmond, every cigar or every cigarette pack that was coming off the line had Asian labels on it. There was nothing in English. It was all going overseas. So
it's the classic American brands are massive outside of America.
Yeah.
Right. In America, like, I think cigarettes are quite dying in America. The videos they had in like elementary school of like cigarettes are bad for you really, really were.
I didn't have that, so.
Yeah, elementary school was before video for you.
Yeah, in ancient times.
Yeah.
But getting back to cigars. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so cigars in London. So yeah, that was an integral part of our trip, and we planned to go to a few of them. I had a whole list of Google Maps pins to work off of, but we ended up going to 5 lounges and one shop. Couple I missed lounges that I wanted to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Couple places I missed that would have been cool to go to. That includes the Dunhill House, which is not directly a cigar place, but Dunhill accessories and famously the Dunhill lighters is a place I wanted to go to. And then Boisdale's of London. It's like another kind of famous. They have a few locations of cigar lounges that would have been cool to go to as well. But those are where we didn't go. But first, I wanted to talk about the one non-lounge we went to, which is one of my favorite places to visit because of its history, is Davidoff of London.
That's probably your favorite brand.
Yeah, so Davidoff of London. Davidoff is probably my favorite brand, and outside of their Geneva home, the Davidoff of London store is probably the most famous. It's been run by a father and son. I think now like grandfather, father, child, for a very long time, and they still are in there every day. They were there when we were there.
Very hospitable.
It's kind of funny. They kind of remind me, and this is a random comparison. Probably don't know who I'm about to say.
Probably
the guys who run the Davidoff of London store remind me of the Al Unser Sr. and Al Unser Jr., the Unser Racing Museum.
Yeah, out of Albuquerque.
Yeah, these guys have a niche like they're really into, and like if you're into racing, you know the Unsers, but if you're just casually into racing, you probably don't know who they are.
They're one of that's a pretty big name.
It is, but I think it's a very
even
racing
casually.
Name. But it's like it's a name, it's a family in racing, and we've never told the story on the podcast, but one of my all-time favorite memories is going to that museum in Albuquerque, and just kind of off the beaten path. And I don't think you or I expected like
who came out.
What actually happened there, but like meeting Al Unser Sr.
Not only meeting him, but he kind of gave us a tour, even walked us through the gift shop, advised us what to buy, what to sign. He'd be happy to sign. Told us the family history, told us the history of the museum. And for me, he's a guy that when I was a kid was on ABC Wide World of Sports, which was everybody watched that on a Saturday, or I think it was a Saturday. So he was always on there. So, I mean, he was part of growing up. He was part of American culture, not just American car culture. So for him to actually take the time and say, nah, that shirt doesn't look good on you. Let me get you this one. I'm going like,
just this like dude in the gift shop that made that comment, I think, to you, and
Yeah.
it just turns out it's Alan Senior, and it's just like, whoa.
Like, and then
the
comments about his son and stuff too. So
yeah, he's like the nicest guy too.
Yeah.
Like he was crazy, so passionate for his museum and for his town too. Very passionate Albuquerqueans or whatever people from Albuquerque are called. Anyway,
but now we're getting on a whole new show.
Yeah, back to the topic at hand. The reason I say that is because the Davidoff of London store is run by the Sahatians, and like really kind people, extremely knowledgeable.
Oh wait,
family,
can I interrupt real
always
quick?
in the Yep.
For those of you watching on the YouTube channel, there's Al.
Yeah.
I forgot he was on the wall. Signed picture that he gave us. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, so the Sahatians run Davidoff of London. They're always in the shop. They're always willing to give recommendations and meet and take photos. So it very much reminded me of.
Maybe this is a point where I should say, as I've said, there's prohibitions against smoking globally now, and there's a push. So I was curious whenever I go somewhere how you can operate a cigar bar, depending on the local laws.
Lounge.
Cigar bar lounge, yeah. In London, it turns out you're not actually buying a cigar, you're sampling a cigar, and you pay for that sample. So that's how they get around the laws. So every cigar you buy, and if you go to a lounge, you buy the cigars there. Because there was one lounge I did have a cigar with me, and I was going to light it up, and he said you couldn't do it. That was against the law. You can't bring in your own. Liquors the same way, because in many of the lounges, there's very fine bourbons, cognacs. You're also sampling the liquor. That gets around the liquor laws too. So I found that really interesting. So.
And by sampling, it means like you're sampling one to think about buying a box.
Later. A box, yeah.
Because cigars come in boxes of 10, 20, 30, so
yeah, 10 or 20
usually.
For the first time in my life, I held a box of cigars that was $15,000 worth of cigars.
Yeah, a car. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get it. I can't remember which lounge it was. I had the picture. I think it was.
We'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll mention it. But yeah, a car's worth of cigars in a bucket. But yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting legal loophole to have a cigar lounge in London, but it works and people do it. So, but yeah, with that, we'll get into kind of our 5 stops of cigar lounges. And the first one we'll kind of discuss real quick. If you heard our last episode, we were at Harrods a couple of times, and in the basement of Harrods, the -1 floor, kind of down the hall from the massive Harrods gift shop, is a extension of James J. Fox. It is the Harrods James J. Fox cigar.
I wouldn't even call it a James J. Fox.
It is a James J. Fox.
It's kind of like it's not really them.
Yeah, but it's basically a small humidor with Cuban cigars, and then a small 6-7 person seat lounge.
Yeah,
in a box.
You walk across; they're not connected. You walk across a hallway into it, and they have to take you. And there's it's a keyed entry to get in.
Yeah, so it's in the basement. It's no windows, which is kind of funny. It's fine. It's just comfy chairs and whatnot, and very classic decor, but nothing special about it. Funniest moment of our cigar lounge trip: Ken got locked inside. We tried to leave.
Well, yeah, because they keep the door locked, and there's a switch there, but it wasn't doing anything, and I don't know what that switch was. And it turned out the switch to open the door was behind it, so you couldn't see it. And even the other guys in the lounge,
AC
they have a camera,
something.
so the guys from the humidor came over and opened it for me. So yeah,
that was you walked away, and then I was like, the button to open it is right here.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because it was on my way up, but yeah, it was pretty funny. You were pressing every single button, press that same I think it was a climate control button multiple times.
Yeah, and then it was probably sending bells off in the humidor.
Yeah, but Yeah, I mean, it's a place where you can smoke a cigar in Harrods. That's about it. That's a kind of
Yeah, I wouldn't
description I would give it.
say go and seek it out if you're in Harrods and you want to get away from all the hustle and bustle of shopping and have a cigar. Do it.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get into the better recommendation I have for that area
But
in a
also
little while.
in the Harrods lounge, they basically just have coffee,
Yep.
waters, I think sodas, and most
Yeah,
lounges that's all
they have a
free.
coffee machine and
But they
water.
didn't
Yeah,
have like liquor available or pints of beers or anything.
yeah. Actually, none of the places we went to had beer.
That's right. Yeah, but they had
Yep.
liquor. Yeah.
Yeah. Most said if they served alcohol, it was fine liquors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a common pairing with cigars. Yeah. If you don't know, whiskey, rum,
Bourbon.
bourbon, usually like dark alcohols are the drinks of choice when you're drinking a cigar.
Amaretto.
You're smoking a cigar. Um, if you don't want alcohol, the best drinks usually people say is coffee. Um, and then it's kind of a random one. You will think I'm just making this up because I like it, but a lot of people like Dr. Pepper with cigars. Dr. Pepper is a very enjoyable drink with
I
a
didn't even
cigar.
need you to say it. I knew what you were going to say.
Yeah, but
By the way,
it's
folks,
like I've heard that before.
I was shocked. Dr. Pepper is definitely a global brand now. I
It's
would
a big
say
brand now.
I think I saw more Dr. Pepper than Coke and Pepsi in London, quite
Well, we
frankly.
stopped at one food market. I can't remember what was the name of it. There was a food market in like every stall. Now I'm sure they had like a contract with Dr. Pepper. Every stall sold Dr. Pepper as their
Yeah,
primary soda.
which is
It's like,
shocking to
wow.
me because
And people were drinking
they
it
were a
too.
small niche brand out of Texas, and now I think they're the number 2 selling soda
Global.
in the United
Yeah,
States.
yeah, they passed
Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
crazy.
which is that's massive. Yeah, back to cigars. So yeah, Harrods, James A. Fox cigars. Yeah, nothing
Yeah,
special.
yeah.
But just kind of interesting one. But the next one we went to is a pretty special one, but it's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
lower down, our preferential list. But that's the Connaught Cigar Merchants at the Connaught Hotel.
Which is a
And
phenomenal hotel.
to give a little context, the Connaught Hotel is like a 6-star hotel. So
Yeah.
it's to give an example of that, out front of the Connaught Hotel was a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ and a Porsche 911 GT3 RS. Like that's the kind of cars that people are driving when they show up to this hotel.
Yeah, I mean the
If you don't know,
valet is
those are
like
$250,000 plus cars. So
yeah.
actually more than that. But this is like the uber luxury hotel in the middle of Mayfair, down the street from the Michelin restaurant we discussed
Mm-hmm.
Humo on the last episode. And the hotel is beautiful, and a lot of times these high-end hotels have cigar lounges. So getting back to a little bit of the history of cigars in London, they become such a kind of integral part of the high end of society in London that some of the most famous hotels in London have cigar lounges. We didn't go to them, and I don't think actually the Savoy used to have a cigar lounge. I don't think they do anymore. But the Ritz-Carlton does have a cigar lounge, and also actually their own cigar they have made for them. So hotels having cigar lounges in London are part of history
Mm-hmm.
for cigar culture there. So the Connaught has one, and it was a beautiful space. The ceilings were as tall as the place was wide.
Well, yeah,
Which
but
was crazy.
before we were debating whether to go in, because as Carson said, the hotel is 6-star, very high end. We were not dressed appropriately.
No. This was that was a different place.
You
You're
sure?
thinking of you're thinking of the Churchill terrace restaurant. At this other place we were coming from the Devonshire, which we were
Yeah.
dressed nice, and not like super nice, but we were dressed well,
Yeah, but
nice
the
enough.
Connaught, that was the one where they asked if I had a reservation, and they
No, it
took us
wasn't.
back to get to the cigar lounge. It had the
That
window
was
that looked outside.
yeah, but that was you're thinking the reservation was the Churchill. This
Oh,
one
I
we
didn't.
just walked straight through, and we're all good. They had other people had reservations, but he's like, yeah, you guys can sit down here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
It was
very nice room, and it had
it
that
was a
window
small
that looked out
space.
onto the street.
Yeah, it's like floor to ceiling, 20
Yeah,
foot tall window. Um, and
service was very good.
yeah,
Cigars were
so
good.
they had like 7 seats. I think they had two double tables, and we were at the triple table in the middle. So it's a very small lounge, but it was like a library in that like
Hmm.
there was like bookshelves all the way to the ceiling, like 20 feet tall. One side was fine cigars, fine Cuban cigars, and the other side was fine liquors.
Liquors,
So fine
liqueurs.
whiskey, fine
Yeah,
bourbon, um, fine rum, like floor to ceiling, super like nice. And I will say this is probably like the guy in there probably had the most knowledgeable of any place we went to. He seemed very smart about it and was very interesting. The guy serving the lounge, she's from Portugal,
Portugal. And the
and
motorcycles.
very into motorcycles. And he actually regularly traveled between Portugal and like, Portugal was his main residence,
Yeah, his
and
family's
his
there, his wife
family's
and his
there.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but he worked in Mayfair at the Connaught Cigar Lounge.
And I will say everybody else in there he knew. They were
Yeah,
regulars, and I'm pretty sure they had plenty of money.
yeah, yeah. This the American guy that was there buying
Cuban.
cigar, like
Yeah.
buy-in cigars in boxes too. He's like, yeah, I'll pick up this box and that. And getting back to what you said earlier, this is where you held um the vintage Cuban bucket
Yeah.
basically of like $15,000 cigars. Um,
I think the vintage was around the 60s when that
I
was.
don't remember at all any of the details. The only thing I know is the Cubans, and they may have been Davidoff Cubans.
But it was
I'm not
fifteen
100
thousand
percent
dollars
sure.
for that
Yeah,
basically
somewhere in
bucket of
that neighborhood.
cigars, and I don't know how many cigars
Yeah,
were in there. Maybe 15, so thousand
yeah,
dollars each.
15, 20. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
definitely a little higher end than we were
yeah.
usually at. But
But I had a very interesting cigar in there. I had a Placentia, I think it was Placentia, that was specifically blended and made for the Qatar World Cup, which
oh yeah,
was
that's right.
interesting one.
I was a
I,
little
I
worried
I like
about that one
Placentia
because
as a brand. It
he,
wasn't on the
he didn't
menu.
tell us a price. It wasn't on the menu, and I
Yeah,
thought, oh my god, it could be an $800 cigar. It
but
wasn't,
the reason
folks.
I didn't think it was because it was a New World, and it's not a Cuban. Like it's a New World bean. It's not from Cuba, Nicaragua, Dominicana. Placentia is not a
Mm.
Cuban brand, and they have higher end New World cigars, but they don't go into that like insane status. Um, and so yeah, this one was not a $1,000 cigar, thankfully. Um, but yeah, it was a really nice experience, very nice place, very high end. Um, but yeah, it was just okay, I think.
Yeah, the ambiance, the staff was great. The experience was good. It wasn't a great. It wasn't as good as the other ones we're about to talk about. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it was like they were trying to use the money and stuff to just like
Well,
create something, but
well,
it was
they
just
kind of have
missing.
to. It's a very high end hotel,
Yeah,
a high end clientele. That's why I was really pleased and surprised how well he treated us and really catered to us and sat and talked with us quite a bit because
he
uh,
he may be of the mindset that he doesn't know,
yeah, you never know what
he
money looks like.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
used to
that's
like the
like
American guy and the British guy that looked like he probably played Premier Soccer, and then the Middle Eastern guys behind us. I mean, they reeked of money.
yeah, they definitely did. The
So
and embarrassingly, the American dude was very stereotypical. He was extremely loud.
loud. talking about his money and telling he came in with another probably an IT guy, I think another American guy, and was kind of coaching him. Well, you should get this. Let me get you this. Let me get you that. So probably a decent guy, but he was loud. Everybody could hear him.
I think he was from like Texas or something too. He seemed like he was Texan. But yeah, it was it's funny.
So in that, I would say, if you were to rate 1 out of 10, Harrods, like I said, 4 or 5. If you're going shopping there and you want a cigar, this place, I don't know, maybe an 8 because it's kind of
it's missing
elegant.
on the.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's elegant. It's small. It's missing on like the culture, the history kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the vibe was like not there.
It's a fabricated vibe.
Yeah. And this next one I'll get into if you want to transition over to it.
Well, which one do you want to?
Had the vibe, which was Sodders of Knightsbridge.
Okay. Thought maybe we hit that last just because it was the.
I thought it was just a good transition point.
So Sodders, I believe there's 3, right?
There's 2 or 3 locations. I think they're, funny enough, their main location is right across the street from the Connaught cigar merchants.
So this one we went to was in Knightsbridge, or
Knightsbridge, which is like, and this specifically, so that's where Harrods is, and that's why I said, if you're having a cigar in Knightsbridge and Harrods area, it's more interesting place to go to is Sodders of Knightsbridge. The Sodders name is historic in the cigar selling tobacconist world as well. But I see you're making a face.
I enjoyed Sodders the most, but when you first walk in, it's like going into somebody's room. It was like stuff was just, it wasn't presented well.
It was the opposite of the Connaught.
Yeah, if you had that room from the Connaught and put that in Sodders with the people there, that would have been a perfect mix. The guy running the place, I believe it's Polish. We got along great, had a nice discussion. I said I wanted a souvenir. I got lots of matches. He gave us those postcards.
It's right behind you, actually.
The artwork. The matches are behind me.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about those postcards.
Yeah, they were exclusive artwork to Sodders. So I know I've got them somewhere. I just don't know where. And
speaking of souvenirs, too, he also asked him to give me let me buy a cigar that will remind me of Sodders of Knightsbridge. And they had a cigar that's made only for Sodders, and it's a farm roll. So it's farm roll, which the people who gather the tobacco leaves, they're allowed to keep a certain amount, the tobacco leaves. And some of them just keep them from themselves. Some of them will roll them and sell them. And this was a farm roll from Cuba, given specifically and made specifically for Sodders. It was just the fattest little chunky cigar, but it was a great little cigar. Yeah.
And then he had a young lady helping him. She was nice. Again, coffee. They did have liqueur. So very nice. But I mean, it was like somebody's couch from the living room was in there, some chairs, some bar stools, but they had set it up in basically a circle. And I think when we walked in, there were 6, 7 guys in there.
Yep. So we went in there when the Chelsea match was playing on a Sunday.
That's right. We wanted to see the Chelsea match, and that was one of the few places that had a TV. And they were watching after the match. They did turn it off.
Yeah, and I'll say there's like a couple different styles of cigar lounges if you ever go, so you kind of have to match the vibe. There's the ones where you kind of sit really, or it's like library light. Mm-hmm. There's really not a lot of conversation. They're few and far between, but occasionally you run into one of those. There's the ones where you're like seated in your own groups, right? And you're kind of like talking to your own group. And then there's the ones like these, which are the most interesting ones, where the conversation is for the whole room.
I don't want to say forced, but the seating is made to communicate with somebody across from. That said, Carson was able to get a seat in the inner circle. His mom and I were on the outside with the proprietor. I don't say proprietor, but the guy running the humidor and everything. So that was
a small room.
Kind of nice. And I'd say, like I said, I think 6 to 7 guys. So
and they all knew each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These are neighborhood guys. A Frenchman, a local British guy, a Somali guy.
2 Somali guys.
Well, he came in later. I was going to say,
Oh, okay.
and
All
a
right.
Belgian,
A smaller guy.
and then
No, and
two
a
Koreans came in. Two Korean guys
well,
came in.
there was this like Eastern European guy. I didn't know exactly where he's from, but he's like some.
He was a real quiet guy, I think, that left.
No, he's the loud one. The loud one.
Oh, okay.
He was sitting like directly across from me, and he was wearing the Aquanaut, Petit Philippe Aquanaut on his wrist.
Oh, with the long hair. Yeah, that was
the
the other
hair.
thing. As you know, we're kind of into watches, so we were looking at people's watches, and that was I think I saw his watch first. I forgot about him.
You could tell some of the guys in there had some money.
I was looking at where did he get his money?
Like some of the dudes, like you could tell had money, but some were just like just like middle class guys. So.
But before we go in, Carson would say, "Dad, don't bring up politics or religion." So I go, "Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I won't."
This is a general statement to him.
Yeah, in general. Yeah. But about 5 minutes in, this tall black guy comes in, sits across from me and across from Carson, and a few minutes later, he goes, "American?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we started chatting. He got into politics. He's a Somali.
He's very he's British.
He's British, but he's Somali heritage.
Somali.
But the other guy in the room,
British.
The other guy in the room was from Somaliland, and when I said that to him, both of them were like shocked.
And so I will say,
and we had talked about that before, the difference between Somalia and Somaliland.
I will say you didn't learn this until a taxi ride with a guy from Somaliland.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, I mean, that's why I asked the guys. But actually, I did know it, but it didn't really dawn on me because, we're not being focused on that part of the world. But he was blown away by that. But it did turn to politics. I think we had a couple cigars in there that afternoon. Surprisingly, everybody in there was more supportive of Mr. Trump, where Muhammad was for Mrs. Harris. But at the end, when we got up to leave, what happened? The guy from Somaliland got up and hugged me, and he said, "I pray for you. I pray for America. I pray for Trump. We need a leader."
I don't remember. I thought he just shook your hand.
No, he hugged me. It was weird. But, I mean, he was a gracious guy. So.
What was so there was also a funny moment with the Korean dudes.
Yeah, because something came up about Korea, and I don't remember.
No. You know what it was? Is I think they were, like, introducing themselves. He asked, like, and got lost in conversation, and he was like, "I'm from Somalia," and he said
Somaliland, and somebody said, "What's the difference?" Or we're talking about the difference.
No. The Korean guy said he was from Somalia, or he thought said the Mohammed, the guy, like the very British dude you were talking to.
Yeah.
He thought the Korean guy said he was from Somalia, and he's like super puzzled, and then like continued on the conversation. He was like, "There's no way."
It came, yeah. The diversity of that group was wild, but
that was a funny group.
It was brought up because they were trying to define. I think I'd asked, when they were talking about Somaliland, what's the difference? How is there two countries? And they said it was like North and South Korea.
Yeah, just
Somaliland is South Korea, Somalia is North Korea.
Yeah,
and then those Korean guys popped up because that's how they joined in the conversation.
And he was like, he said he was from Somalia, and he was like, "No, I'm trying to make the connection to North and South Korea." But the dude was like, "No way." I think he like said this. There's no way you're from Somalia.
It was funny because it was a mellow conversation, and then everybody's like cheering and stuff and laughing.
Yeah, it was funny.
But that was an excellent example of cigar culture and what it can do. It allows people to talk about things that I guess you normally wouldn't or shouldn't or prohibited from doing.
Yeah, you're kind of pushed into this like conversational atmosphere, like this social atmosphere, and people are generally in a cigar lounge accepting to it because if you think of a cigar, like a cigar, minimum 45 minutes, maximum you're 2 hours. For certain cigars.
I think also a cigar smoker is always kind of currently an outcast anyway. So you can be of different political, religious persuasions, but you're a cigar smoker, so you're part of that cigar club that people look down on.
That's what this Muhammad from from London was very eclectic, I would say.
Oh yeah, I would not have been surprised to see him at one of the street fairs banging on a drum, smoking his
Yeah,
cigars. Hey Ken, how you doing? When are you going back to America? So I actually look forward to someday going back there because I know Muhammad will be there and the rest of the guys, and just say, hey, it's 2 years later. Here's what's happened in the world, you know.
but yeah, so that was Sodders of Knightsbridge. Not their primary location, but definitely a very
Yeah,
interesting location. It's kind of behind a bunch of stuff
yeah.
too.
I
So
would say the ambience of the room, furniture, presentation, very bad. I don't want to say bad, maybe 3 or 4, but
it's just
overall, the ambience of the place, the clientele, the
the
employees,
vibe makes up
quality
for
of
it.
cigars, the vibe, 8, maybe even a 9.
Yep.
On that one, I kind of have
So
to, yeah.
yeah, fun little place. But yeah, with that, we'll transition to a pause. Um, you turned your gain down, your gain up. You
I
hear
did.
much louder. Yeah, you
Oh,
like much louder.
how about if I go back? How's that?
Keep talking a little bit.
How's this?
That sounds better. You were like
I
got
didn't
really
touch
loud
anything
there.
at all. Might have done it
I
on.
thought you like bumped something.
Okay.
Um,
Hopefully, it's not too much. How's that?
that's good. That's good.
All right.
Um, all right. I will start.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, and we will start to talk about a um newer place that I think
Mm-hmm.
is it's joining the fold and making a good entrance because I actually really thought it was a
Beautiful.
great place. Yeah, it was
I do
very
too.
nice. It's got to build its clientele and its culture and its vibe it has, but it definitely has the potential. And that's City of London Cigars in I may butcher this, but Spitalfields, in the City of London area, and it's a newer place, and it's yeah,
I think it
like
had
the
just
kind of name
recently
suggests.
opened.
Yeah, it's right near Spitalfields Market.
Mm-hmm.
And it had it was brand new. It was a place that looked gorgeous inside. It was pretty sparse because it was it seemed pretty new. The humidor was filled with a lot of good cigars, good quality. I thought their prices were actually
Pretty good.
significantly better than some of the other places. And to just tell you, everyone, cigars in London are not
Are
cheap.
not cheap. They're expensive.
They're more expensive than anywhere
If you're
else in the world.
Yeah, and if you're going there for a Cuban, you're gonna
Yeah.
spend some money.
But City of London Cigars had both cigars and fine alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
whiskeys and
Fine
bourbons and
accessories as
stuff.
well.
Yep. And then their lounge was in the basement, but it was large and very nice. They
Well
had a
ventilated,
couple,
beautiful,
yeah, they had a
nice bar.
TV, freshly painted, brand new kind of chairs, leather couches. It was just overall a really nice lounge, and
Nice
you
beverage
know,
service. They're
yep,
very attentive.
the guy and the gal who were working it were very nice. They were, yeah, like you're saying, very attentive, knew their stuff, and I think it's only up for them because the bones and the structure of everything are there. It's in a good location.
Mm-hmm.
We went there kind of late at night, and there was a ton of bars, and there was a nice nightlife scene there. So there's definitely a lot of potential clientele. Funny enough, like there was like 4 younger dudes that came in, uh, shortly before we were leaving, and they were probably 22, working in downtown London or something,
Mm-hmm.
in the financial district, and came in for cigars. So that was funny to see. It seems like their first time or something.
Yeah, they were new to
Um,
the culture.
yeah, yeah. So they came in, and yeah, good location, good place, and it's as they age and just like the
Were,
cigar, I think it can only go up for them.
were those the guys that asked us about the Chelsea match because we had it on the phone?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It wasn't Chelsea, it was Manchester United.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
But I will say to give that place a rating. I mean, it's a beautiful like you say, they're building their clientele, their reputation, but I'd put that as an 8 or 9 as well. I really like
Yeah,
the place.
so unlike Sodders that had the vibe and the people and had
Yeah.
the history and has been there for a while, this was brand new, but it had like the structure and the bones, the size to really do well. They have
And
multiple locations around
yeah, I
London
think
as
there's
well.
5, Holborn,
Yeah,
and there's a bunch. But if somebody says I only want to go to one cigar bar and I just want to try it, and they're not into the history or anything like that, this would be a good. I would send them there and
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
feel like yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely if you don't care about the history, which we'll get to in a sec, which is very important to cigars in London,
Yeah.
um, then yeah, this would be a good option.
Yeah. Now the
So,
big one.
yeah, speaking of that, so the history, um, James J. Fox, in the St. James neighborhood, which if you don't know the St. James neighborhood is money, like the biggest of money. This is like a location where there is like a underground tunnel under the park to like
Yeah.
Buckingham Palace, basically.
Yeah, it's like old
Um,
money.
yeah, or yeah, truly old money
Yeah, it's
place.
not like Bill Gates money or
Yeah, and
IT
this
money.
is
It is money that was probably gathered during the colonial periods and dominance
the East
of
India
the.
Company
Yes.
like money. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they mentioned the
Um,
East India Company because I
yeah,
think it was
yeah,
connected. Yeah.
yep. Um, but the James J. Fox, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, was opened in 1881. It was Winston Churchill's favorite place to buy and store cigars. It was who did I mention to you earlier? That was a
Hemingway,
famous.
all the
No, he
royals.
was a
Oh,
famous writer. The royal families were also
Oscar Wilde. That's right.
yeah, Oscar Wilde was a client. The royal family has been clients over history, so this place has immense history among the walls of the cigar humidor, and they're both there. When you go in, it's wood lined shop,
Kind of what you
big
would expect when you
humidor.
walk in. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mentioned to you guys you have to go to the museum, and the museum is their basement.
Yeah.
Um,
You can't
it's
really.
kind of like
I wouldn't call it a museum because when you think of a museum, you can't touch or see it. I mean, it's just on display. You can't do anything. Where this is actually what would see maybe our archives or something like that.
yeah, it's like an archive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is you go in, staircase on the left going down, and you come around, and it's like a what was probably like an old conference room. Now it's displays of old cigar memorabilia, boxes of old cigars that you can't smoke anymore that just dried out, old Cuban stuff, old ledgers, which was super cool, just
Yeah.
cigar like purchases, like stuff, old stuff. And what we specifically went there for was the chair that Churchill used to smoke
Churchill's
in when he
chair,
went to James J. Fox Cigar. And what is super unique about it is you can sit, yeah,
which
and
is what I'm
we
saying
each,
is this is the chair that one of the greatest, most historical figures in the world sat in and had his cigars. Now, I will also say this: when I was down there, and we knew it was there, so we went down right away. Um, it reminded me of a kind of a war room. I could
yep,
see Churchill and his kind of cabinet sitting around that table having cigars, talking about what they're going to do to Hitler, or, you know, the Blitz is what's going on in the world, because it was down in a basement. It had the center table, chairs around it, and Churchill's chair off to the side. So I thought that was
and
probably
that's a place he
that
went
was
to
the height.
protect his. He went to protect his cigars
Yeah,
that he had there. He had someone go there and gather them so they would get to stick
but
them in
think
a
about
vault.
we talk about a communal experience. You're discussing things. I mean, Churchill would have been sitting there smoking a cigar, discussing the Second World War and strategies with the guys around him. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah, it's
phenomenal.
unbelievable. Like this small niche thing, cigars, and just the massive like connection and history that it has. Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. And that's what takes James J. Fox to another level. I mean, it's got just this immense history to it. The Stafford rate. We actually purchased cigars for my brand new staff member, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, and he was a lovely chap, a bit
Yep.
older. So he was
British.
nervous serving us, but
Yeah,
he
yeah.
lived out in the suburbs. He has to commute in via train. And I think we were probably, I don't know, one of his first customers. And he was nervous about the people watching him and ringing up our cigars and stuff. So, but I enjoyed it. It was great that he did. What was interesting about being down in what I would call the war room in Churchill's chair. So when we were up purchasing the cigars, one of the senior members of the staff came up and said, "You have to go downstairs." And I said, "We have." He goes, "Did you sit in Churchill's chair?" And I go, "We did." And he goes, "Bloody good." Yeah, something like that. Something very British. He was so happy that
British.
he goes, "Wow, you know what's going on." So, and from there, we get our cigars. You purchase some.
Yep, purchased some cigars. No, sampled. Bought a sampling of cigars. Yep, and took them upstairs into a pretty cool cigar lounge with some nice portraiture.
Yes.
Kind of like what you think of a cigar lounge. Had a big portrait of Churchill on the wall, which is very appropriate. Mm-hmm. Had some nice leather tables and chairs and couches. What I thought was really cool was they had a semicircle window that overlooked
arch window.
The street.
This is on the second story, and it opens up, no screens. The ideal table is a table for two right at the window. Somebody was already there.
It's quite cool.
But yeah, you can have your cigar. There's natural ventilation and ventilation, and you get to hang out and watch the street scene down below.
Yep. And so there's a couple guys working in there, a couple other guys at the window smoking cigars, but you met quite the interesting character, I would say.
Yeah, I was wondering if you remembered and would bring that up. So as we've mentioned, you meet wonderful people in this place. So gentleman came over, and I think he had wanted to talk and just didn't know how. And
he started talking to everyone. We were the last people.
But he came over and started to talk to us. Turns out he was Pakistani, retired, I believe a colonel. I know he was in the army. I just don't remember exactly what grade.
I think he was pretty high level in Pakistan military. Yeah.
And he had been there for a month. His family was in London, his daughters.
Yeah.
I did give him the link to the podcast, so he may actually have subscribed and listening to this. So sorry, sir, I do not remember your name, but we had a lovely discussion.
You were a memorable experience for us, and that's, you're one of those guys that, make cigar lounges so special. You just meet people from all around this guy, Pakistani military. He's like a teacher now. No, he works for a university.
Yes,
He was on a training. He was on a month. Yeah, he was on a month trip, with his family in London, and he's like, I need to get away from my wife and kids, so he goes to the cigar lounge.
The third place.
The third place, and
I thought he really dug the fact that, because I said, one of the things I've always wanted to do and visit is the border crossing between India and Pakistan. And I know Americans don't know about it, but there's a border crossing, and these countries are at odds. But
I think a lot of people do. The videos have gone viral.
Have they? Okay, so the whole dancing and ceremony of the border, and it's what do you call it? Like a break dancing, break off, or whatever you call it. It's like they each do their ceremonial dances and military stuff, and they're trying to one up the other side. Phenomenal cultural experience. So that you got to give the Fox Lab, James J. Fox. For me, it would be a 10. Just because the ambience, the location, the history, and I freaking got to sit in Churchill's chair and smoke a freaking cigar. So, it's funny. Probably princes and soon-to-be kings and viceroys and dukes have all been there. But it's like, no, Churchill, man, he's the man.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, it's so much history in that place. To think it's 143 years old, and the amount of history that's gone through the St. James area and gone through, how important cigars were to people, and and the conversations that were held behind the walls of James J. Fox's. I mean, it's crazy to think what deals could have been done there, and that's I think epitomizes London cigar culture.
Yeah, or even during the Blitz, who was down in that room smoking a cigar, probably in the pitch black, maybe a candle lit, and a lighter going off as you're lighting up a cigar, and you see what would have been church, but just phenomenal history. That was a very cool experience.
Yep. Yeah.
So I would say if you're into cigars or into history, that is a must see. Must see and must do.
It's kind of a secret.
My personal matches from there too.
It's kind of a little hidden secret that people. It's kind of off the beaten path of interesting things to do and see in London.
I will guarantee you, none of the people that were there for the Taylor Swift concert made the journey over there.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you want to end it here, or you want to talk about your last? Foray.
So this is kind of the last of this. The London trip was a great experience. Thank you, Carson, for setting it up. There'll be more in the future, but we didn't do any forgotten jams. But since I did attend a concert last night, I'd like to promote our little local amphitheater in Rockland, which I hope doesn't get too popular with people outside the area. I always thought it maybe sat 1,000 people, but I heard last night somebody say seats 2,000, and it's in an old rock quarry. It's not down in the rock quarry. They built a little grass hillside, and Rodney Atkins was there. It's a country guy, probably not a global audience, but maybe. But we had some friends go that weren't really into country, and they knew, 5 or 6 of us. He had some major #1 hits, so it was a very good concert. We did sit off to the side this time. It was packed, sold out. We saw some of your old friends from high school. Mom was a little disappointed we didn't get our normal seats in the middle, but we'll rectify that next time. But very good concert. We got to meet members of the band ahead of time at your favorite little spot, Lori's Little Shack. Great tacos, cold beer.
I've never been to Lori's Little Shack.
Yeah, it's an old people's place. So
that's you guys and Jack's spot. I've never been there.
Maybe next time you come home. So with that, like I said, had a great experience, some great cigars, some great people in London. Had a great time at the concert last night, and Carson, enjoy that cold weather, man.
Yep, a little too much rain. Pray to the sun gods that they come back, even though they were here for a little while.
Well, folks, if you've listened at all, every time Carson's football team has a home game, it rains in Linz. So I'm like with the rain god saying, rain as much as you want now, so that when in 3 weeks you guys have your home opener, a month, that the weather's nice. I don't mind crisp fall weather, but I don't want to be in soaking rain. With that,
praying to the rain gods on that bombshell. Shout out to the end of the Top Gear guys. On that bombshell.
Oh yeah, you know what? No, I did watch it. I gotta say, I don't want to say almost tearful, but it's like the end of an old friendship. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I guess we could do a whole up. The Top Gear guys had
James
their
May, Richard Hammond, and Jeremy Clarkson.
But what's that? Top Gear was not the episode they ended with.
The Grand Tour.
The Grand Tour had its last final episode come out, and you don't need to be a car guy. Great if you're into traveling.
That was the whole
thing
reason
about
the
Top
show
Gear.
was great. Yeah,
and people are always surprised. We could have brought this up in any of the cigar shops in London. This was the #1 global TV franchise, I guess, is what
probably.
Top Gear and Grand Tour worldwide.
BBC ruined it.
They did.
The BBC ruined it.
At first, I was because the show was good.
Let's not get into it.
Okay, we'll not get into it.
I was to say I don't want to get into it because we could have a whole another 30 minutes of discussion.
That's true. But sign out to those guys. We'll miss.
Yeah,
we'll miss them.
On that bombshell of the end of the Top Gear boys, we'll end this episode here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the At Wits 10 podcast.
Goodbye till next time.